So next up we have Patrick Fontein. So Patrick is a property consultant at Studio D4, and he's going to tell us a little bit about some of the things that are happening in Christchurch. So in particular the Vodafone and Kathmandu developments down there, which sit in the Christchurch Innovation Precinct. Patrick will talk about what's happening with these projects, some of their sustainability initiatives, and how they're working alongside tenants to meet their needs. So please welcome Patrick.
Thanks, Vanessa. Right, I'm going to cover off a bit more of a property perspective on the green building initiatives. Right, so you can see at the top there, used to run a company, Kensington Properties, but probably a little bit down the slide there, when the Green Building Council was first set up, about 9 years ago, with Jane Henley, we set up the initial Green Building Council, and I was on the board of that, and was chairman for the first couple of years where we set up all the Green Star tools, etc. So it's really good to see it have come through, and yeah. Anyway, for the last 6 years, we've been running a property consultancy and development management company, and you can see from there that different to other property companies is that we start off with the tenant, and so we do initial property consultancy work for the tenant, work out what the tenant's needs are, and then once we've got that sorted out, go looking for sites, as opposed to normal property companies who got a site and then go and try and find the tenants. What we normally do is go right from concept through to delivery and through to handover, and a couple of projects that we've going to run through here, the Vodafone and the Kathmandu in Christchurch, are a couple of those examples. Right, so here's just to give you a bit of a flavour of the types of companies that we've done work for, and so you can sort of see that they're generally large corporates, and we'll do the work wherever it is in New Zealand, and our model goes pretty good in Christchurch, where if you've got a tenant that needs some space and you can find the land, then it goes pretty good. Anyway, so here's the blueprint plan, right, from Christchurch. So I'll just give you a quick little fast run through that, right. So just make sure it's working. So here's the 4 avenues, right, there, and so you've got the city centre, right, sort of through the middle here, and then that's the green frame, which Fletcher's have just been announced to do high density residential, and there's the sort of hospital through here, stadium. And that's the retail city centre area, and that's the square. And then we've got an innovation precinct right outside here, and that was set up by Stephen Joyce and the MB team to try to attract all the tech tenants. And so Vodafone, from the start, were really keen to be in the innovation precinct, and so we worked with them to try and find them some sites within this innovation precinct. And so when we probably worked with them for about 12 months prior to them signing the lease, and one of their key, they wanted to be in the innovation precinct and be the first company there and be the catalyst essentially, and so part of that being the first there drove the building spec as well, and they wanted to be high tech and very green. Anyway, so actually, so just that's the innovation precinct, and you can see this here, and then these projects are the ones that we're working on, and you can see the next slide is a slightly bigger version of that. I'll just move this forward a bit so I can see it better. Anyway, so that's the Vodafone, so this is just basically a site plan, and the Vodafone, that's the Kathmandu, and so we started first working on the Vodafone, and then not long after Kathmandu came along, and they wanted to be in the innovation precinct too, so we started working with them pretty much at the same time, and bought this site here for Kathmandu, and then they needed a car parks, right? So we ended up buying this land, and then not long after that, this was the lively part of town, you call it, right? So this is where all the pubs and the nightclubs and the brothels were, right? And so there's a whole lot of brothels in here, which Vodafone said to us, you need to clean that area up, and so we worked with Vodafone and MB and bought this property and then knocked over these ones, and so this is the one that we've kept, which is this orange coloured building. And so in terms of innovation precincts, right, around the world, what Vodafone are really keen on is the Vodafone building's for 880 staff. Right? So if you think of the building just down the road here, it's about 2/3 of the size of Venue, right? And that's to take in Vodafone, the merger with Telstra Clear, right? So it's to take in the whole of the South Island, it's their South Island head office essentially. And so one of their big drivers was attracting staff, and then when the staff come there, how do you keep the staff there, you know, at all hours of the day basically, right? So that they don't wander off at lunchtime and that they hang around after work as well. So that's so they were really keen on this hospitality building, and fortunately there'd been a little bit of earthquake strengthening done to this, which survived it. This is a building built in 1900, and so we've just about finished this. And for people who understand Christchurch, the Dux Deluxe, right, which is a very famous institution in the art gallery area, is about to come back in the back here. So we've been working for the last 6 months doing 4 bars for Dux Deluxe, and that'll be now Dux Central. And we've got a pot sticker dumpling bar and Sal's New York pizza. So we work really closely with Vodafone, trying to get the uses in there as to what would they like to see alongside. This is our last stage building. I just ripped through here, and that's the Vodafone building in the background there. So this is for Vodafone corporate partners, right, to come into. This is the car park building, and so that's an 8-storey car park building. Basically, all the car park buildings in Christchurch are gone, and building car parks within existing new build footprints is quite expensive. And building basement car parks with the water table being quite high, that's quite expensive too. So there's the most prevalent way is to build car park buildings, and there's probably about 6 of these will be going up in Christchurch. Anyway, so coming on to the Vodafone and Kathmandu buildings. So the Vodafone on the left, as you see, and the Kathmandu on the right. So here's the main drivers for the two of them, and they have some similarity, but then they're slightly different. Right? So Vodafone wanted everything to be as high tech as possible, basically to showcase their products. That was one of the large things, and so every new building that they do worldwide, the standards sort of keep rising, and they've got essentially a Bible of what goes. And we had a chap come over from England who's been working for Vodafone for 20 odd years, going around different countries for about a year at a time. And so being at the next step up is what they sort of drive towards. And so being high tech is what a key focus is, and then they see being green is just part of being high tech. So their focus is on total occupancy costs, right? So, you know, what's the net rent, what's the operating cost, and so there's a huge amount of work that we've done, and Torrin and Peter here from SEEK, we have modelled together. So we look at what are the costs going to be, and then we model every particular benefit running through. Now Kathmandu, they're slightly different in that environmental sustainability is just one of their key core values, and when you go to the Kathmandu offices, everyone, the dress attire is you just wear Kathmandu gear, right? Anything Kathmandu goes, and so it's interesting the type of staff that they attract. They've got their head office in Christchurch and their Australian offices in Melbourne. They're focused on attracting green outdoor type people, right? And that's the type of people that they've got. So in terms of living the whole green ethos, that just sort of fits with them really well. And so their staff are driving the management to be greener, right? And so that sort of fits pretty good with us. And so so they, when this went to the board, they just said, right, well, it's got to be 5-star, Green Star, and we're going to go through and do the built rating as well. And so, yeah, so they're focused on a healthy building, which is similar to the Vodafone, but they've come at it from slightly different angles. And obviously operating cost savings is a sort of a key part of being green, right? And we're working through that as well. Right, so the main environmental focus of these two buildings, and we've done them almost at the same time. They've got slightly different project teams, but a number of people in the project teams are the same. And so the green element of it is, it's a very rational economic focus, whilst both of these companies, as well as people in our project team, we're green and environmentally focused. At the end of the day, it's economics, and so basically we model every part of the building. The point scoring system is part of it, but the main issue is what's this doing to the economics of everything, and so we've got quite a strong cost benefit view of it, looking at long-term occupancy. Comfort and amenity are some of the big issues. So we've done a lot of daylight modelling, right? And that's been one of the key areas. So we've looked at where we've got daylight, and the point system, is part of all of that. But relatively, we've got the structural design. The whole structural design is being driven around where we're best to get daylighting. So lots of areas of precast walls we've sort of tried to minimise. Right, and so the aim is for very efficient, environmentally friendly buildings, and we found that the Green Star tool was a really good, efficient way of evaluating how our progress is essentially. So we focused on primarily indoor air quality and what's the value of the indoor space, and so the three sort of main parts of it is mechanical. The quality of the glazing system, right? So the amount that we spend on glazing is very high, and then daylight. And so we've done daylight modelling and also the eco-energy modelling. Right? So Peter and Torrin spent a whole heap of time working through that, and so optimising energy costs is a real tangible economic benefit. We'll undoubtedly follow through to do the neighbours rating as well, right, coming through. And that will show how we've done with that. So essentially, when you look at at this project compared to a couple of other Green Star ones that we've done in Auckland and Wellington, is material origins, right, and travel miles and stuff like that. Those points are of not great benefit to the tenant, so we haven't really chased those too hard. And in Christchurch, water recycling, they don't have water. The water doesn't cost, and so we haven't really focused on that. But it's interesting, the Downer project that we've done in Auckland, we've got the recycling water, and they're really pleased with that. They ran out of water, I think it was in February last year, through a really dry spell, and they work out that it's 2,000 to 3,000 a month that they save through water recycling. Right? So so there's some big benefits in that when you've got water metering. Anyway, so the Green Star economic issues, it's when you look at the cost, a lot of people say, what's the cost of going 4-star or 5-star or 6-star? Relatively, from a pure economic point of view, from a property side, when we evaluate it, the Green Star, like the 5-star, is driving a higher spec, and so essentially it's a higher spec of building that is costing more, and it's not necessarily saying, hey, we're going 5 stars, so that's slightly higher. I don't think the Green Star itself adds much of any cost to the building, but we have got a higher spec building. But then when we look at the property valuation yields that we get at the end of it, right, they're definitely a lot firmer with the Green Star and the energy efficiency that you get out of it. Right? So so that's been the focus. So if we look at the Vodafone project team, I'm not going to name all those out, right? Now it's quite similar on the Kathmandu. So Jasmax is the main project architect, which Vodafone are really keen on. They've designed the one next door here as well. So we're working in really closely with Calder Stewart. Right? who are building all these 3 main projects with us. Thurston's an ECS, and so you can see that the Green Star consultants, who really we've worked with, this is our 4th project now, so they're heavily focused on the environmental benefits that we get, and we work together really well. So that's worked well. So here is the points matrix, and again, I'm not going to go through all of these items here. So you can see that the management points, we target getting all of those. The indoor air quality, right, is the one that we're primarily focused on, relative to being able to pick up the points, and transport helps being close to the bus terminal, right? So essentially, out of the 60% that you need for 5-star, we're currently sitting at 65. And the innovation ones, we're still targeting, right? So we're not quite sure where we sit with those, but we'd like to pick up a few of those. So the Kathmandu team is slightly different, right? So the project architect's Aqua, and Creative Space is doing the fit out, but the rest of that's pretty similar. And then that's the score is what we're sitting on. So this one is going towards the built rating as well, right? So we're targeting slightly higher points there, so we've got a few more sleeveys. That's the aim of it, and we're still targeting to get some of those innovation points. Right, so I think that's it. Right? So happy to take any questions on these buildings or any of the other Christchurch buildings. I mean, whilst we're based up in Auckland here, we go down to Christchurch every week, right? So we're pretty familiar with what's happening just around the traps here generally.